Today I'm going to be doing some cozy Easter baking, and I'm sharing 3 simple recipes for you to try at home, including my all-time favourite Easter recipe, the super easy 3-ingredient chocolate cornflake nests. I will leave the full recipes in the description below if you want to give any of these a go. Let's get started. I'm going to get my stand mixer out to help me make these mini egg cookies. But if you don't have a stand mixer, you can definitely mix these by hand. I'm going to start by weighing out 125 grams of butter and softening it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, as mine has just come straight from the fridge. But if your butter is at room temperature, you don't need to microwave it. To that, I'm going to add 100 grams of light brown sugar and 100 grams of caster sugar and mix it all together. I am adding 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and mixing it together until everything is combined. I am scraping down the sides of the bowl to make sure that everything is combined well. Now I'm adding all of the dry ingredients to the bowl, starting with 250 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon each of baking powder, bicarb and salt. Now mix the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. You should get quite a thick dough. Next, I'm going to chop my milk chocolate into chunks. In hindsight, I could have cut slightly larger pieces. You can also use chocolate chips if you prefer. I'm going to chop my mini eggs by putting them in a clear freezer bag and then hitting them with a rolling pin. I have found this to be the safest and most efficient way of breaking these up into pieces. I know the price of mini eggs has gone up massively this year. I didn't buy any until the supermarkets started selling the larger bags at a discounted price. If you're worried about the cost, I know Aldi and Lidl do their own brand versions as well. I am mixing the chocolate and mini eggs in with the dough until combined thoroughly. And then I'm going to weigh these into 50-gram balls. You don't have to use scales for this, but I like for my cookies to be nice and even in size. I'm taking a mandatory mum break to play sweeping the floor with my son. Next, I am adding some whole mini eggs to the top of the dough balls and pressing them in slightly. You can do as many or as few as you'd like. I think I did about 2 or 3 per cookie. Now I'm going to chill these in the fridge for about an hour. Then I'm going to bake these in the oven at 160 degrees fan assisted for about 10 to 15 minutes or until they look done. These turned out so beautifully. I love mini eggs at Easter time, and these cookies are a perfect way of enjoying them. The next recipe I'm going to be making are these chocolate cornflake mini egg nests. They use just 3 ingredients: cornflakes, chocolate and mini eggs. I've seen other recipes online that use butter and syrup as well, but I found that they're really nice just with the chocolate. I'm going to start by measuring out 70 grams of cornflakes. The big bar of chocolate I have today is 280 grams, so I'm using half of it today, 140 grams to go with my 70 grams of cornflakes. I'm melting my chocolate today in the microwave. I have found this to be the easiest way for me to melt the chocolate. You can start by running it for 30 seconds and seeing what it's like, but after that you want to be really careful, only putting in for maybe 5-10 seconds at a time and giving it a stir. You don't want to overheat the chocolate or it's going to seize. Next, we're going to start mixing our cornflakes and our chocolate in a big bowl. Add a little bit of the cornflakes at first, combine it with the chocolate and then keep adding cornflakes as you go along. I found that it's easier to add a little bit of the cornflakes at a time and let them fully coat before adding more. Now I'm going to fill the cupcake liners with my chocolate cornflake mix. I have found that this amount of chocolate and cornflakes gives me about 7 or 8 little nests. And whilst the chocolate is still melted, I'm going to add my mini eggs on top. I like to add 2 or 3 eggs per nest. I think that looks really nice. Now they're going to go in the fridge to set fully. And don't they look beautiful? This is definitely one of my absolute all-time favourite Easter bakes. They're so beautiful and so yummy. And last but definitely not least, I'm going to be making this delicious carrot loaf cake. I'm starting by lining my loaf tin. I have these special liners, you can get them at the supermarket, but you can just line your tin with baking paper if that's what you have. I'm going to start by weighing my carrots and grating them. You want around 200 to 250 grams of carrots for this recipe. Next, I'm combining my dry ingredients in a bowl. Mix together flour, baking powder, bicarbonate of soda, salt, and your spices, cinnamon, nutmeg and cloves. We're going to put our dry ingredients and carrots to the side, ready to be mixed in. Now in my stand mixer, I'm adding caster sugar and light brown sugar and mixing them with 2 eggs until lighter in colour. Measure out 150 grams of vegetable oil and drizzle it into the sugar and eggs as they're being mixed. Next I'm adding the grated carrots and mixing until just combined. Then I'm doing the same with my dry ingredients. Now we want to pour our cake batter into the prepared loaf tin. I baked mine at 160 degrees fan assisted for about 50 minutes. This will take about 40 minutes to an hour to bake depending on your oven. Once the loaf is out, you want to let it cool completely before adding the icing. For the icing, I'm going to soften some butter and cream cheese in the microwave to make it easier to work with. Whisk your cream cheese and butter for about a minute. I'm using my hand mixer for this as I'm not making a large quantity of icing, and a hand mixer will be better at combining all of the ingredients instead of them sticking to the bowl. Add 200 grams of icing sugar and combine thoroughly. Add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract for flavour. If you want to make the carrot decorations on top, put some of your white icing aside in 2 bowls. We will use this to make our orange and green icing later. I'm spreading the icing all over the top of the cake in a thick layer. I had some icing left over, so I added that to the 2 bowls of icing. I'm going to put the iced cake into the fridge for at least an hour so that the icing has a chance to firm up a bit. Next, I'm adding green food colouring to 1 bowl and yellow and red food colouring to the other to make orange. I really noticed whilst doing this how weak the supermarket food colours I have are. You can see this green ended up being very pale. Here I've added my red and yellow food colouring and immediately noticed that the yellow is getting lost. I remembered at this point that I had a higher quality yellow food colouring that I used for Harrison's birthday cake last year, and right away you can see a huge difference in the saturation of this colour compared to the supermarket ones. This is how the two colours turned out. And this is the loaf straight out of the fridge. And I'm starting with the orange for the main body of the carrots. I'm adding these little dots all over and using a toothpick to pull down on the dots to form the carrot shape. I was a bit nervous doing this as this was my first time trying this pattern, but it was super easy and really satisfying to do. For the green carrot tops, it took me a while to figure out the best approach, but in the end I started piping these little V shapes on the top of the carrots, and I think that looks really nice. I haven't had carrot cake in years, but this recipe ended up being so good. There's such a lovely rich flavour to the cake, and the icing really complements it. I had a great time making all of these recipes. Which one are you most excited to try? Please let me know in the comments and subscribe if you'd like to see more cozy baking content. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video.